a really good show tonight. Charlotte's got a lot of things that she can talk about. And I will start out by saying that Charlotte called us. What was the?
It was 2019.
Oh, 2019. Okay.
Yeah.
And she wanted us to come up and look at her property. And she told us that she had Bigfoot on the property. If you want to, you can talk about what we experienced while we were there and then go into some of the stuff that's been going on with you since then.
Okay. Yeah, I had noticed that I had Bigfoot on the property and I had joined Chuck's Facebook page at the time when there was a lot of people in there and got a lot of good feedback on pictures I sent in. So I called him and asked him to come up because there was a lot of things going on in my immediate neighborhood because I live in a suburban area. And so he and um, Larry James came up in January, and because I had found a 23-inch footprint in the yard. So they came up here, and it was dark when they got here and raining, but we still went out and looked around at things, and then they stayed overnight, and it snowed overnight. So they were still out here early in the mornings looking at things, and then the sun came out, and we got to go down to the river, and they went down the riverbank and everything. But I think they researched for quite a bit that weekend, and there had been somebody down the road that had lost like 25 goats, and there's a grade school about a mile away. So that was my main concern, you know, um, those things happening so close to home. So that's what started my involvement with Chuck, and I just continued to send him pictures and texting when things would happen, and there's just so much because they were right out my backyard, and I saw him often and took as many pictures as I could. And at one time, I was casting footprints and really, really into it, and then I kind of got tired of it, and I started clearing the property, and now I've got it cleared all the way back to the fence line, but there's a creek back there, and I still see them back there, and I still take pictures, and I still get footprints in the yard. So it's just been very interesting. I've never had a bad experience, and I have seen them when I come home, when I drive in the driveway, sometimes at night, I'll take pictures because I can see them with my headlight, and I can take a picture and you can see a shape, but you don't get a lot of detail because it is dark and it's a cell phone. So, I also came home. I didn't get to tell Chuck this one the other day, but a couple of years ago, I came home and across the street was a young man that was a senior in high school, and he had a half a dozen pickups in his yard and his friends, and they were all working on their trucks. And it was a really nice day, in the fall, and they I could hear him talking. I had my window down. I was driving slow, and I turned in my driveway, which is before their property. And when I turned in, I looked at the back of the fence line, and there was a Sasquatch with the conical head, and it was black, and I could see up maybe to the shoulder, and it was watching the boys across the street, apparently. And I stopped and I was just watching and I didn't think to take a picture. I was just so surprised because this was early evening and it just slowly went down and out of sight. That was so awesome. So,
Charlotte,
uh-huh.
one of the things, and I've talked about this several times, me and Rick and Barry and um, Larry, we all went down there to see what was going on there. And one thing amazed me, and I've told this several times, what amazed me about your area is it's a huge residential section. There's houses everywhere. and it surprised me uh, that Bigfoot was on the property.
Right?
And and when we were driving up to your place, I was thinking to myself, man, there's no way there's Bigfoot out here. There's no way because there's residential, there's homes everywhere. And the first thing you did when when we got there was sit us down on your couch and you started pulling out casted prints that you had casted. And and we just all kind of looked at each other like, holy cow, there is Bigfoot out here.
Yeah. Yeah, it was yeah, Rick and, Barry came up the next day, and that was very interesting too because, they talked about their experiences, and Barry walked around the property and told me some interesting things about different areas back there, and, it was a good weekend, yeah,
It was a good weekend.
yeah.
The 23-inch tracks were pretty impressive.
And just getting validation from you all with all your experience and knowledge was a huge relief for me. So, and then, I just continued. I mean, I've just got so many. I know I sent you a bunch of pictures, and um, I was trying to find that piece of bone that was laid on the cross that one day, and I haven't found it yet, but I've got it in a box somewhere. I didn't throw it away.
Hey,
So,
Charlotte,
uh huh.
it's Rick. Hey, uh, being you've been there and you've seen all these Bigfoot around there, have the other people that are living around there close by you, has anybody there said anything to you about they've been seeing any of these Bigfoot around? Or
Um,
are you the only one that's talking about it?
well, down here at my end of the property is where it was wood, like mulberry trees. There's just because there's a creek behind it. But the
Right.
other properties, it was clear until you get to the other side. It's like 5 or 6 acre little field right there. And on the other side, there's a stand of tree that they would hide in or whatever. And then right next, and behind mine was very wooded. I mean, clear up almost to the house because it had gotten away from me for a couple of years. We had a lot of rain and stuff, and I just couldn't keep up with it. So that's how they got the close to the house. But now they're back at that line, which is good for me. I get to
Right.
still, I get to still see them, but they're not right in my back door.
As long as they knock, that's okay.
Yeah, and they do. They knock. I've got fingerprints on the house, and I sent pictures of stuff on my car windows, and um, there's just so, and there's like, I didn't send a picture of this, but there's 2 trees back here that were twisted as saplings, and they continue to grow as twisted together. I thought that was pretty awesome. Back there where they
Wow.
sleep all the time. And they have their little crossing back there where they push the fence down, and you can always see that it's always stomped down, the honeysuckle and grass where they go over the fence. And then there's always a trail at the end where the creek runs into the ditch. There's always a clear path up to the creek from the highway. So I checked on that this evening. I went to town earlier and I checked on different things around, and um like the tree that was broken. That was on a Sunday, and I heard this big boom, and I thought, "What in the world was that?" So I was going outside to see, and then it happened. Another loud sound, and I knew it was on the other side of the little field I was looking at, but I couldn't see over there. So I got in the car and drove around, and I found a tree that was freshly broken in 2 spots. So I took a picture of that. And so then I, looked around. I was trying to see if I could see anything moving, and I couldn't see anything. So I went ahead and drove around the mile section. So I was gone about 25 minutes, and I came home And on my picnic table was a big metal cross that I was getting ready to, well, I was repainting it. And there was I think it's a piece of bone, and it was laying right on the cross. So I thought that,
Really?
and I left it there. I left it there for days. I didn't move it, thinking maybe they'd come back and get it or something. I mean, what else would leave something that big laying there?
Yeah, that's
And
a gift to you.
yeah, so I guess
Yes.
because I kept it, and anyway, I've got a picture of that. I've got the bone. I still got the cross. I'm getting ready to paint it again. Um, that was a very interesting thing. And then at that same time, I don't know what was going on, but across the river going north, there's a country club and there's a golf course that runs along the road. And along there were a bunch of trees broken in the same time frame. And where I went by and saw those freshly broken trees, and they were not little. They were pretty good size. And then within a week, somebody came through there and sawed off all the broken pieces and piled them in a pile. But I just felt like something was going on, and I actually believe that law enforcement around here knows about them because I have followed law enforcement at night when they come through here really fast. I'll go see what they're doing, and they're spotlighting a field. Well, I don't know why they would be spotlighting a field. There's not robberies going on or anything out here like that.
You
But,
think somebody has called in
oh,
about
you know,
somebody?
yeah,
Or-
because their house, well, there's a home that's set back off the road. So there's the field was at the road, and then the homes are at the back.
Okay.
And so, it's just things like that go on. And as far as my neighbors talking about it, so nobody's really talked about it. But, there was a week or so, the guys across the street, they're young people that live in this home and mobile home, and they had their lawn chairs and ice chests up on top of the roof. So I don't know if they were just
Wow.
cooler up there or if they were looking for something. And then some people moved in. They bought the property at the end of the cul-de-sac behind us and put in a mobile home back there. And they put up a big old post with lights all the way around it. And they turn it on. And it's not on every night. It's just on at certain times. So I think that's their booger light. Keep things away at certain times.
Charlotte, is the your neighborhood, is it a new neighborhood?
No, no. My parents developed
I've
this. It
lost
was
the sound with
they bought a pasture and divided
can't
it
hear
into 8
anybody.
sections, and everybody put a home out here. Bought a piece of land and put a home, and so it's been here since the mid '80s, 1980s. Yeah.
I have to say that I love the fact that you jump in your car and follow the cop just to see what they're doing.
Well, I've known the deputies off and on because I used to manage a convenience store out here. So, I mean, sometimes they come and ask me for help, and sometimes I'm just curious. So,
Love it. She's like, I know for a fact they do it because I followed them.
yeah. Well, like if I'm coming from town and I see one blaze by me and take a turn, it's like, okay, where are they going? And I don't get in their way or anything, but
Yeah.
and then you see them up there going real slow with the spotlight, and you're thinking, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Because see, across the highway up here a little ways, I mean, just like a couple of city blocks away, there's a big old tall cyclone fence. And that fence kept getting bowed down like something was going over it. And then sometimes it would be folded into like a Z shape. And that's not something that we could do, a cyclone top rail folded into like a lightning bolt. So things like that went on for a long time, but then they've also cleared their property where there's not hardly a tree left and they put buildings up there. So that fence has stayed pretty much intact. I've noticed, probably the last year. But there for a while it was interesting.
Well,
And
I saw one of your pictures, and it
uh-huh.
looked like it was behind a barn, I think, and it looked like a nest where they had
Oh,
cut the grass down.
uh-huh. That happens pretty much about every February when it's really cold. I always leave that area. There used to be a multi-trunk willow tree, like a black willow that grows along a creek or something. But anyway, it's like a shelter back there, and I don't bother them. I know that they go back there, and because you can see where something's laid back there, something large is
Yeah.
laid back there. So, but the tree's gone. But I leave the grasses and stuff for the winter, and it happens pretty much every year.
Charlotte, are they more vocal certain times of the year?
Let's see. Well, I hear like if I'm outside, like after dark, which that's not hard to do in the winter, but I'll hear like owl sound, and sometimes I'll get tickled and or try not to laugh. But nowadays, I mean, now I tell them hello. There was a time that it was kind of scary for me, but um, I'll hear owl sounds. I hear like it's not really a whoop like you guys do out in the woods, and it's not really owl. It's kind of in between. And they whistle. I've heard them during the day and at night, like clear croak. And it sounds, I mean, the whistle is so clear, it's unbelievable. I hope someday I can get it on a recorder.
I was just curious because I noticed down here you're more likely to catch vocalizations October, November, December. Um,
Yeah.
they usually start quieting down about January. So I was just wondering if you'd noticed that.
Well, I think I noticed it because, well, like down in the morning, I heard one between 5 and 6 a.m. out my bedroom window, and the window was shut, and I heard a little whoop out there. But they don't do the big howls and stuff like that around here. They might further back in the open country, but not up here where I can hear 'em. There's a place like when I go to town in the mornings, I would see a cinnamon colored one walking down a fence line that cleared, and it's really close to the river, right before you get to the river bridge. And it was multiple times. And then sometimes I would see that individual melt down because he would walk down the fence line and get up to a little bit of a hill and be crouched down, leaning against the post.
Charlotte, when he was crouched down, was another vehicle passing by you by any chance?
Now, I mean, he was pretty far off the road.
Well, what I was trying to get at it, from what I've been listening to you, it seems like they pretty well accepted you and accepted the fact that you see them and it
Yeah.
doesn't bother them. But I thought
Right.
maybe if you were in a vehicle and they know your vehicle, then they see another one passing you or meeting you, they'll usually squat and try to hide because they'll allow you to see them, but not somebody else.
Oh, I see. No, I mean, I was just always so thrilled to get to see if it was walking down the
Yeah,
fence line.
I'm
And
that
then,
way too.
of course, and sometimes I would, if there was nobody coming across the bridge, I would do a U-turn and pull over and stop on the road, off the road. And
Hmm.
oh gosh, I hate to
Charlotte,
admit some of that stuff.
Charlotte, when we spoke like a week ago, you talked about a encounter where some guys were working on telephone poles. You want to talk about that?
Yes, that was a good one. Um, and I was looking up the dates on my pictures a while ago, And that was June. That was back in June. Um, so the power pole out here, sometimes this piece comes unhooked and it's like a metal bar. They have to go up there and replace it. So the bucket truck was out there and there was a guy on the ground and, just like safety watching. And so I could see him out my kitchen window because the power pole's right out there. So I was watching them, and for some reason I thought, well, I'll just walk out on the patio for a minute, and it was starting to sprinkle. So I just happened to look over to where I see them a lot. And sure enough, and I was kind of giddy because I had a big wooden um, container that I kept firewood in and potting soil and stuff like that. But there was like maybe a foot between the house and that box. And I could see through there. I could see they were out there. And I was so shocked. And so I hurried back in the house. I didn't have my phone. And I got my phone and I was trying to be quiet. And so I got my phone up there and I was watching them. And I thought I had hit record and I didn't. But I could see, I had it zoomed in and I could see the moisture in this one's eyes that's sitting there. The one
Wow.
and this one was not big hair, thick hair. It was more like slick, like an animal gets in the summer. Their hair gets slick and everything. It was like that, and it was like a golden brown, and the eyes were brown, and it had big ears, and then I could see a hand wrapped around a tree next to it. So must have been one standing there that was jet black. And so when I realized I hadn't hit record, I hit record and it was just barely came on and my phone went off. And so, I'm trying to get it back on and trying to be quiet. This happened two times my phone went off. And finally, the third time I got it up there and it was recording, the big one that was sitting was scooting back a little bit. And it appeared to be speaking because I could see its white feet, its lips moving and its white feet. And I was just amazed. Just couldn't believe this was happening. And then it scooted out of sight. So it's
How
like, I'm
far
thinking
away? How far away was he from the worker?
well, let's see. About the rest of my house is like 25 feet, maybe 75 feet.
Wow, they were close.
Yeah. Because they have I call it their little theater, because they have this little spot where they sit, and most of the year there's vines hanging down and tree limbs, but when they're around, there's a section of it cleared all out where they can see out.
Is that little area where I think you said you put some golf balls or something out there?
Well, when you all were here, we put some golf balls out, but there was a fallen tree in the yard, and we put them out there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
were they in that little cubby area?
No, that was over. Like that tree was halfway in the yard. It was like in the middle of the backyard.
Okay.
And this area is over close to the property line by the highway.
Oh, okay.
But it happens every year. The vines and stuff all notice that it's all kind of cleared out and they have clear sight. And I always joked about they like to sit and just watch cars go by,
Yeah.
Hey, Charlotte,
Uh-huh.
you described something earlier about a bunch of trees that were pushed over or whatever, broken apart. Was that a golf course area or a park, or what was that area?
It's at the end of the golf course. Yeah, it's country club property. 'Cause there's a field, and then the golf course start, and then go on up, and then after that, it's residential.
So that's a pretty wooded area around that area.
Yeah, and now, I mean, that was a couple of years ago, and now a developer came in and is developing the other side of the street. So,
Hmm.
been cleared out quite a bit, cleaned up, and they're building over there.
They're probably not hanging around over there.
Yeah, that's may
Yeah.
make them mad a little bit too. No, they're
I
not gonna
think
be
that
happy.
I kind of felt like the one that was breaking trees that week was not happy.
Exactly.
Now you've
Mm.
actually seen them looking in your windows, right?
Yes. I was sitting on the couch one night, just probably looking at papers and stuff, and I looked over, kind of just glanced over the kitchen window, and I only had half curtains, and so the top of the window is like 8 feet from the ground, and I saw a head move over, and then it would come back, and it would move over. So I held up the paper like I was reading, but I was really looking over there. And
That's smart. That's smart.
yeah, I didn't want to change what I was doing. I was trying to see what it was doing. Anyway, it did. It swayed back and forth a few times, and I could see because there's a security light across the highway and that on that property, and so it was backlit. So I could see the hair, the outline, and it was big. It was a big head,
Mhm.
and it was right to the top. I mean, its head was just a little bit above the top of the window.
Did that not scare you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was concerned, but I'm just so curious,
Wow.
you know?
Amazing.
You know, Charlotte, I think that they know you pretty well. They've been around for a long time,
They're comfortable.
and I think they feel comfortable around you.
Mhm.
And I think they're very curious as to what you do and how you do things. And I think I remember that you used to plant gardens, and
Yes.
one of the things that you focused on was garlic because you liked a lot of garlic, and
Mhm.
you used, if I remember correctly, you used to do different types of garlic with different flavors. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
And a lot of times, did they uh, take your garlic and your vegetables?
They seem to like zucchini and yellow squash. One year I got one fruit, one vegetable off of the plants that I had planted.
Wow.
And then the garlic, there was only one kind that was it's kind of native to the United States, and that was the preferred one. And it was
Hmm.
funny because I had hauled in like a whole truckload, 10 yards of wood chips. And so I put wood chips all around the garden and in the paths. And I would have, I call them little because they were like maybe 6 or 8 inches long, but impressions in the path and the garden. They never bothered the peppers. I even grew sweet peppers. I didn't really grow that many hot peppers, but they didn't bother those at all. And the tomatoes, I mean, I was pulling up tomato plants in late September and just throwing them out to dry because they didn't bother tomatoes either.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
that's pretty
That's
awesome.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
And on the wood chip pile, there'd be little footprints almost every day. And I would rake it all clean, and then see what would happen, the next day. And every once in a while, I'd put my flip flop down there and take a picture if it was about the same size. So,
So you think there were some young ones playing
yeah.
around in that?
Oh, yeah. I would find
Oh.
big old prints where one had, sat at the end of the pile. It made like a little seat, and it
Yeah.
would sit there, and then the babies would wear, the little one would wear a dent in the top of the pile, running back and forth over it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is. Gee, since we talked to you in 2019 or something, when it was, you've had a lot of experiences. That's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I've had a lot. And like this year, I haven't been out much. I've just been working too much and it's so hot. And so I thought maybe I would see them more this time of year when it cools off. I mean, September, October is usually pretty active.
Do you have introduction on here?
Um, I have pictures and stuff clear up till May, and then it kind of drops off until fall. And I thought maybe they just stayed down around the river, where it's shaded and cooler. I don't know. Maybe they've
Well,
got farms they go to. I know one farmer, a few miles east of me, planted a big cornfield, and something went in there and ate the corn seeds overnight. Or a lot of it was gone.
that was Bigfoot. Well,
Yeah.
Chuck, you remember how Barry always said that they were nomadic a little bit because they would go around, they follow the food.
Yeah.
Wherever there's food, they go. And he may have 3, maybe 4 months and we'll never see them again or no activity. And then all of a sudden they'd start back again.
Right.
Well, he had a tornado hit Barry's house and destroyed it, and he rebuilt back. Okay. It seemed like it took them a year or maybe longer before they started coming back to that
Yeah.
house.
Wow.
I'm curious, how far is the river from you?
Well, it makes a horseshoe around me. So to the north, it's 1 mile, and then to the west, it's 2 miles, and then to the south, it meanders down that way. It could be 2 miles to 4 miles. I don't know.
Hmm.
Now, Charlotte, the creek bed that's there, doesn't that float into the Arkansas River?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and the guy across the highway, he cleared out the tree line along the edge of his property really good. I mean, underneath and everything, and he trimmed the trees up high. And then he put up a privacy fence along that side of his property. So he's got things kind of buttoned up over there.
Yeah. Charlotte, I'm going to ask you again. You might have said it while I was off there a little bit meandering around. Have you had people close by you say anything about seeing Bigfoot?
Oh, yeah. Well, the next door neighbor, when he was alive, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was having issues with dog food disappearing.
Oh,
And-
exactly. Yeah.
You guys were up here that weekend.
I remember that.
And he said he had a game camera and there was a little pack of dogs. And I think Chuck said, well, I don't think the dog opened the lid and closed it back. So,
Yeah. Not
know.
hardly.
and I haven't really talked to anybody about it. But there is the people clear down at the end, and they have always done this. They have those big bulbs of string going along their back deck, and they're on every night, all night long.
That's for a reason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
So,
Wow.
and I bought the string lights. I just haven't put them up yet.
And
So
Charlotte,
you saw them seeing footprints. Is there a range of sizes that you see?
Oh, yeah. The first one I saw was in January. I'll never forget it because it was January and it wasn't but maybe 3 or 4 inches long, but it was a perfect little footprint out beside my house, right beside my house. Because I had planted a new kind of garlic over there in a little 4-foot bed. And I went out there to check on it, and there was that footprint right beside the house.
Hmm.
And then the 23-inch one's the biggest. 16, 17 inch, it's not uncommon. And then I find a lot of the littler ones, like I was saying, maybe 6 or 8 inches.
Hmm.
I've had a couple of really deep ones, like they were leaking or something, and their foot goes into the ground, but you can see the toe mark, all the toes, and it's slanted, because they've gone deep into the toe part.
Hmm.
And when it rains, I used to be, oh gosh, I used to be really concerned. 'Cause we'd have a rainstorm, and then as soon as the rain would let up, I would go out and run, look around, and they, for a while, they were coming catty cornered across the yard, and they would go right by my water hydrant beside the house, and then maybe out to the back. But I would find footprints in the mud. So here I am out there putting casting material in the footprint, and I'm putting a 5-gallon bucket over it to keep it dry, and leave it there for a few days.
Well,
Sound like they've accepted you like they have Barry out here. They've accepted him, and I think they've accepted me because
Yeah.
I used to go out there quite a bit, and we'd talk, try to talk to them and tell them to come up there and stuff. And we usually knew that when we see his big old, he's got a big fat older yellow lab. Boy, when he runs and hides in his doghouse, that means one's close by because he
Uh-oh.
runs in there and hides.
Yeah.
So we usually know when we can't find him and he's over there in his doghouse, there's one around. Usually it's dark when we're doing this,
Uh-huh.
but Barry's had a bunch of them around his house too. I mean, a bunch.
well,
Yeah, anymore, when I come home late, I get out of the car and I'll just say something back to the back towards the yard. I'll say, hi, how you doing? Or,
Mhm.
Eden,
Wow.
does any of this stuff correlate to some of the stuff that you experienced over in your area?
Yeah, a lot of it does.
do you remember around here?
Um,
Yeah.
When and I mentioned this in the last podcast, when he first to put his trailer in, he was pushing trees down. And he just kept pushing more and more trees, even though he'd already had the clearing for the trailer. And he left to go to work in Texas, and I had one banging like pounding hard on my roof. The night after he left in the evening, and that at night I had one banging on the house. So
Wow.
I don't see footprints. Charlotte, I wanted to. She ever measures the width of her footprints that she finds in her yard.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Because I found slime prints over on the Pearl River, which is north of the Honey Island Swamp. And I have casted. There was trackways. We found trackways. Had to been over a dozen different sizes, from like 3 to 4 inches up to like I think 10 inches.
Wow.
The ones I cast a right and a left, like in the 1/2 inches, and then 4 inches wide. It's in that river silt, so mud squished out from under the foot at the mid-tarsal break. It's really cool. But yeah, a lot of what you say and what you're saying, Charlotte, sounds a lot like what I have here. And it's funny you mentioned the golf balls because I have golf balls all over my place. I don't know where they come from. These golf balls just show up. They move around. I find them here. I find them there.
Is there a golf ball
Can-
near you?
So I don't know what the deal is. They like playing with golf balls.
I had a bird feeder that I hung out in a tree, and it disappeared that summer, but it came back a year later.
Wow.
Really?
Yes.
The first
Wow.
time I put out a game camera, I put it out in the back of my property, and it took me about 6 months to find it because something had picked it up and thrown it off into the woods. Um, so yeah, it didn't come back on its own, but something picked it up and it didn't like it where I put it.
Yeah, they're like me. They don't like their picture taken.
That's
I
right.
got a long time ago. I had a full kid bicycle, like a 23 or 24-inch bike, with the banana seat. It was left in the yard, and a couple of years ago, I was out mowing and I found a training wheel laying out at the edge of the yard. And then a couple weeks later, the other training wheel and the axle were out there. So I put them up on the patio and left them all summer, but nobody ever picked them up.
They just want you to fix it for them.
I guess. I don't know.
Wow. They're giving you gifts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those
So-
are odd items to them.
Something to
So-
play with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I
Well,
got
Charlotte-
it back. I bought some toys at the dollar store, and they're out in the garage. I need to put them out and see if I get any action back there. 'Cause it's all cleaned out because I'm getting ready to put in some fruit trees at the back.
Mhm.
And that'll be my gift to the Sasquatch. Fruit tree.
Well, Charlotte,
Good luck with that. What kind of fruit trees you gonna put out?
I'm going to put out some green apples and some pears, a couple tons of pears. And I don't know if I can get a persimmon. It's hard to get them around here. People buy them as soon as they load them off the truck. So,
Mm. Well, they'll like those.
yeah, I think
They
so.
like apples and pears real well.
I have about 15 in the back on the back of my property, and I never get a meal off of it. They come in and clean them out overnight.
Really?
They're all gone.
Yeah. Well, there was a man across the highway from me that had 2 or 3 apple trees, and they finally ran their course, and they were taken down this summer. But he would get some of the low fruit, but he had to be sly about it. And he grew a lot of tomatoes and a lot of gardens. So, and it was out here by the highway, which was really odd to me. But he's got pecan trees. He's got a pecan grove in the back. There's been so many things happen. I have a little notebook, one of these little notebooks, and I just write down brief
That's good.
descriptions.
That's
And
good.
I'm trying to find time to just type out a little story for each encounter and put it in a notebook and print pictures I go on and put it in a notebook. And, I don't know if he'll ever get it when I'm gone, but it'll be there.
You'll love that. I have a question. You were talking about your neighbor lost a goat. What was the time span that he lost all of those goats? The 25.
Well, at the time we had some dogs that were running around, and that, of course, there were community meetings. I mean, even little horses were getting killed and injured, and then all those goats and everything. So I think they finally got the dogs under control. But then on the first day of school that year, there was a dead goat laying right beside the road where the buses and all the kids had to pass by it that day.
Hmm.
So, but that's a lot of goats.
Were wild dogs being blamed on it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think.
well, Charlotte,
Well,
we found like three dog skulls out there down by the creek.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that the dogs had anything to do with it. I think that was what the authorities told
Oh, yeah.
told the guy what had happened or where he thought it happened.
right.
It's just to keep the public quieted down. They won't get all riled up and excited about it.
Right.
Well, and I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I think they had 25 goats go missing. I don't
Wow.
think they were killed and left on the property. If I
Yeah.
drive by there every once in a while, and they're out there, and their goats are like, they're just out there with the goats. They're like pets.
Right.
So,
Well, it could have been a mountain lion coming through there too and got some. They sure do like the goats.
oh, I hope I never see one of them.
I've only
That would
seen
be
I've seen 19 of them.
I've seen one running along the ditch beside my car, but I've never had one on my property.
Here in Louisiana, but I saw one cross my driveway one evening.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. They're there.
They're there. Yeah, they like to go for the back of your head, so I don't want them around here.
No, no. Have you ever felt like, and you've been outside and you thought you heard your name?
Yeah, I had. Yes, I heard my name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was
Yep.
figuring that. 'Cause
Yeah.
if they're that friendly and they're that comfortable around you, that they will know your name, and they can mimic and sound like a person that said that.
Yes. But I've lived out here a long time. I mean, my family's lived here. My son was raised out here. And
They've probably been watching you 20, 30 years more than you've been watching them.
yeah, and I sent Chuck a picture with the hand sticking up in the air. And I looked at it a while ago, and you can see a thumb and 4 knuckles.
Really.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I've never, except that one video, that's the only time I've gotten a face.
Mm.
And I wish I had something with a bigger zoom, but you just get so excited you probably couldn't get it focused anyway.
It's-
Charlotte, have you thought about getting a dash cam?
Well, actually, I did talk to somebody about that about a year ago. They were trying to get me to get a dash cam that, one for the front, and one for the back. And yeah, I've been known to be pulling out of my driveway, and I'll stop and look out the rearview mirrors, and
You have to get a GoPro for in the front and in the back.
Mm.
exactly. I've never put out game cameras because it was always talked about that, that'll for sure keep them away. And when they were up close to the house, I did want them away, but now they're far enough back that, and I've only seen, well, let's see, was it last January? I actually saw one crawling on the ground beside the house when I was coming home because the headlight lit it up enough that I could see a big mass of dark brown hair, and it stopped. But when the grass is golden colored and they're dark brown, they're not hard to
Yeah. He's
mistake.
not hiding
No.
very well, is he?
No, he didn't make it across there. And then I saw one black one one night when I came home, and it was going over the fence. It had been on all fours and was going over the fence back there. And it was jet black, and it was so beautiful. And I watched it crawl over the fence.
What is the estimated size, or you think is the height of the largest one you've seen? You have any idea?
Well, I did accidentally see one last year when I was like mowing for the last time, and I was up at the top of a ditch, and I have a 0-turn mower, and I turned it around real quick, and one had stood up, and it was as tall as the tree that it was next to, which was probably at least 10 foot, and it was
10.
going back down. When I whipped around, it was going back down, but it was so huge and black against all the green back there.
Right.
And I mean, it was so big, I felt nauseous. So I just put the mower up and went inside. It's like, that's enough.
Yeah.
But that was a total accident, that I
Well,
turned.
he wasn't expecting you to turn that fast either.
I know, probably not. Yeah,
Yeah, I
'cause
had
I take my time 'cause I want to make sure there's no cars coming and I, turn and come back down and mowing this big old ditch. And I whipped it around real quick. It was going back down.
he thought, oops, I messed up.
Yeah, they probably don't care.
No,
Nobody don't
it,
care.
it sounds like they're pretty comfortable around you. That's the way they are around Barry. And since
Yeah,
I've started hanging around Barry, they accept me, I think. And before I drive up and down the streets around, I was a UPS driver. I went all over the country. Of course, I'm traveling fast down them dirt roads. I wasn't even paying attention. I wanted
yeah,
to keep my eye on the road, But now that we do hot shotting and we run around, and I started looking. I've seen from the interstate. I've seen them from the toll roads, Indian Nation toll road. I saw one of 'em from there, actually two, and it looked like Patty. It was just walking in an open area he was like between a quarter and a half mile away, but he was big. I mean, when I got to that clearing where they cleared for a fence, he was big.
yeah. I was telling Chuck that I know there's a white one down by the river because in the morning it's
Really?
standing out at the edge of the tree line. And then in the late mornings, it won't be there. And I've never seen it in the evening, but it's always there in the morning.
Well, do you think this was an old one? It's kind of turned silver and white, or do you think it's like an albino type?
I have no idea. And because that's the first time I saw one in that same spot was a humongous black one.
Yeah.
And it was reaching out and picking up big pieces of a tree and bringing it into the tree line.
Wow. Chuck,
And
have
I,
you ever seen a white one?
Never seen a white one.
I haven't either. Wow, you're special, Charlie.
but I
Gee.
just started noticing that one this year.
Yeah.
I've seen something white out there in the mornings, and my binoculars aren't strong enough to go that far, and that's frustrating. And I've never seen, except for that one, I've never seen details on her face. Um, I mean, I would just like to be able to look up close and not be up close.
You think just like I do.
Exactly.
I want to see him, but I don't want to reach out there and touch him.
Yeah. Because I've asked him for many years. I said, "Don't scare me.
Yeah.
I want to have a heart attack and die." I just want to.
Well, they've
Yeah.
accepted you into their lives, basically.
That's good. But
Yeah.
that's good.
Did I hear you correctly that you've seen the facial features once?
Yes.
Can you describe that to me?
Well, his hand, this one, he was sitting down and he had like the Buddha belly and broad shoulders. His head was round. He had big ears kind of on the side of his head. And I'm saying he just because, and, that's the one that I was looking at through my phone that was, 10x already. And his eyes were brown. And they weren't big, they weren't giant eyes, they were smaller eyes, and he had kind of his snout kind of came out, but it was rounded, and along the lip line was darker than
Look
the
like a
rest of
simp.
it. Yeah, kind of like that. But it was actually attractive. It wasn't an ugly individual,
Yeah.
and I don't think chimps are pretty. But that kind of a round, protruding mouth and nose. And then when it was backing up and the lips were moving, like it was either talking to me or talking to the other one over there, that had huge, bright white teeth.
I've heard it described that they have white teeth. That it's shocking that they have white teeth because you would think that they would not.
That's what I've
Yes,
heard
sir.
people talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
They seem to like the honeysuckle that's back there. And it's really interesting to me because I was listening to a documentary and it was talking about honeysuckle, the only plant known to kill sepsis. So, as far as wound care and stuff like that, pretty interesting to know. And I'm sure in that documentary, it was talking about they probably learned how to use fire if they actually did take Native American women and children. And these women would have been cooking for themselves to sustain their, life. They have to eat.
Right.
And there would have been fire. And just stuff like that, things to think about.
Well,
Because
now that you
they were saying that it couldn't, they don't think they could be a great ape because great apes live in tropical areas and they eat the great, the vegetation.
right.
And it's our experience that ours eat meat and fish, as
Yeah.
well as plant, whatever. But
Goats.
yeah,
Yep. Out west of Oklahoma City.
Um,
I have seen 6 from that bridge on driving down the interstate and look down toward the river and see them standing in the water.
wow, that
I've
was
seen,
awesome.
yeah, I saw 3 of them at one time, and boy, you talk about they were tall because they were down into the river edge, and I know that's probably at least 2 foot before you get up to there. Then that tall grass, and their heads was level with the grass. So I mean, they were huge.
Wow. And you didn't snap a picture, did you?
Golly, I just looked up and there they were, and I'm driving down. And I got a semi right on my tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way I could snap a picture.
Yeah, I look every time I cross the bridge, but I haven't seen one yet.
You haven't?
There's a lot of rivers between here and I-35 and
Oh
creeks.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. And any other questions or comments before we turn this off?
No.
Charlotte, I enjoyed that. Listening to you.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Thank you. I want to hear your stories. I'll be checking out the channel.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds
y'all.
good.
Well, thanks for coming on the
Thank you,
show,
Charlotte.
Charlotte. And if something else comes up, give me a holler.
Okay, I will.
Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me on here.
Bye,
Anytime,
Rick.
Rick.